The Sentinel Mindset.
What's the most expensive home a police officer can afford? What's up, everyone? Hope you're doing fantastic today. Today, I'm going to be diving deep into this question. And this actually should be a very, very important question for many, many people looking at getting into any career for that matter, but just specifically policing. Now, in episode 149, we went into what does a police officer make? And we basically kind of utilized at least 7 to 8 different services. We went as long as Toronto, York, Peel, Durham, Halton, Hamilton. We did the RCMP, the OPP. We even did places outside of Ontario. We did Vancouver, we did Calgary. And the reason why we went through that is because a lot of people don't even know what the scale is. But for the purposes of today, in utilizing the data we got from there, the average police officer across the board, meaning across Ontario, hovers around $110,000. And this is as of 2024. Some are at about $109,000, but for the average, we're gonna say for a first-class constable, that means 4 years of serving, you're gonna be getting paid around $110,000. So the purposes of this example is you've just made it onto the service, you're excited, you're gonna wait a bit to make a down payment so you can buy a house, so it's gonna give you at least a couple of years. You already may have a down payment right now, but I'm gonna just utilize the data as if you just got on, you're gonna wait 4 years and then you make your $110,000 right now. That's without overtime. What kind of house can you afford? Now, maybe you've been thinking about all the services that you want to look to apply to, whether it be Toronto or Durham or York or Peel, or maybe you're thinking, hey, listen, life's already too expensive here in the province of Ontario. Maybe I want to do something outside of the city. Maybe I want to work in rural areas or suburban areas. So you maybe want to join the OPP or you want to join the RCMP and work in another province entirely. The point of today is for you to find out what that $110,000 can get you. Now, on the surface, a lot of people listening may be like, $110,000, I may be able to buy this beautiful $1 million home. Well, we have some information for you today that you can utilize. We will have the links here to showcase exactly what you can afford to buy. Now, keep in mind, the country's expensive, right? Especially the city of Toronto. And most people need 2 incomes to purchase a home, okay? And you may be thinking, I've heard this many times as well when I have talks, because it's important that you know this information before you apply to a service. You may be okay with renting. And I've heard some people say renting is cheaper than it is, and it's actually a better plan. I don't agree with that. However, if there's ways you can get into ownership faster, which is kind of what you want to achieve to do. You want to be getting into ownership. And that is purchasing and creating, I'm gonna say, financial wealth for yourself over a long-term period of time. You wanna purchase. And I'm gonna show you how there's possible ways of doing this, but I also wanna create a little bit of a reality check, especially for those people that live in Toronto and want to work in Toronto, what that can look like for you. All right, so Matthew, why don't we first of all start it off and put up this map, which we already have here, the Canadian housing. Now, this is a data that was pulled in from May 2024. This gets updated regularly. And what I want you guys to see is that's our entire beautiful country, okay, by province. And you'll notice that every province has an average home sale on the high and on the low, okay? So if you look at, for example, Vancouver, as of data for 2024, the average home is $1.3 million, right? And then you start going into like Calgary, you're looking at 600,000. Then you're going into Edmonton, you're at 440,000. Starts going even lower in Winnipeg. And then you start coming closer to the regions of Ontario right now, and you can see that there's a little bit of a spectrum here. Toronto would be the second highest, most expensive place in the country to buy your home at $1.1 million. And then you can see on the offskirts, you got London at 660,000, you got Hamilton 817, then you're going into Montreal, Ottawa. You get the picture here. This is important for you, first of all, to look at when you're saying, I want to become a police officer and I want to buy a house, okay? Because at the end of the day right now, when you look at this map, you can see why, first of all, some people have decided to relocate and move outside of the country, outside of the province, because they want to buy a house. And there's ways you can do that. But again, I'm going to kind of show you how you can do that and how you want to be looking at this. If I want to be a police officer right now in Toronto, my salary, $110,000, what can it get me? Matthew, First of all, how are you doing today?
I'm doing fantastic, but these housing prices, though, they're getting me scared.
They're getting you scared, and they are increasing.
Yeah.
They're not slowing down. So, first of all, you're going to get a shock today when I'm about to show you right now, because when I saw the data, it threw me off. Matthew, why don't you go to that stress test calculator? The CBC put together a calculator to showcase exactly what the bank has in place as their stress test. And what I mean by stress test is they want to figure out how much money are you looking at buying. So what do you need a mortgage for? You want to buy a house. What is that value? Okay. Then the second thing they're saying is, okay, well, with that being said, how much debt do you have? Then they're also saying, what is the down payment you're going to put on this house? They put this calculator together to figure out exactly what they would give you if you went and said, I want to buy a house for $1 million. Okay. But we're going to reverse this a bit. What you're looking at right now is what we kind of pre-entered the data. And again, you will have the links to this. You can play around with this. We basically stated the annual income before tax for one person in a household of a police officer is $110,000. That's the average for a first-class constable. Okay, Matt? The second thing we put down was the down payment. Now, we put $110,000. That's 10%. Now, most banks will not even look at you with less than 10% down.
Yep.
Okay, there used to be back in the days when I bought, like this is 25 years ago, where you can do it with 5%. Not anymore. You need to make sure you have a great deposit. So when I said when you first get on and you're living with your family or friends or you're maybe paying rent, this is your time to save your deposit and you want to go as high as you possibly can.
For sure.
So in this case right now, you just got hired by Toronto Police. You're making your $110,000 as a first-class constable, and you now have been able to put together a down payment of $110,000. Well, the current mortgage rates right now, as we speak, are 5.15% to 6.55%. That's average. And by the way, 2 years ago, they were sitting at about 1.89. So to give you an example how much this changes the game. But in this specific situation here right now, we're talking of today. If you had 5.5% on $110,000 earning as a police officer with $110,000 down payment, 10%, and now we're going to go into the last equation. What kind of monthly debt do you hold? Now, if you are basically having a car payment and you have some student loans or credit card loans, I just put $1,000. It may be more for you. It may be $5,000, it may be $10,000. God forbid it's anything more than that. You don't want to be looking at a house.
Oh, man.
But I'm just saying it's real that you have to put this number in. Now, we put $1,000 in, which I thought was kind of reasonable. Look what it says in that bold blue writing there. The most expensive home you can afford is $384,000. Now, Matt, you go back to that map for a second.
Sure.
Tell me where on this map, based on that number, we could potentially earn. Now, keep in mind, we're looking at averages. If you look at that very bottom section, there's actually lows. So in that little blue, light blue section, there's a low of 333 to 371K. When you look at that, where do you see that low?
That's going to be in Newfoundland or Saskatchewan.
Okay, exactly. Okay.
Yeah.
Now, I say this to you because that stress test shocked me when I saw that. I could not believe that. Go back to that number again.
For sure.
I want you to change that. Go to mortgage rate to 1.89%.
1.89.
Yeah, that's what it would have been. Can you do that? Actually, let's just keep it at 1.8.
Sure.
That's what the rate was 2 years ago. You're looking at right now 406,000. So that goes to show you that when the rates go down, the earning more for you buying a house goes up. The bank will lend you more money. Now, go back to that map. We just identified right now that if you're a Toronto police officer, as an example, or that's the place you want to choose.
Yep.
The second most expensive city. By the way, Vancouver starts, the first class constable is $120,000, but it doesn't make much of a difference on these calculations.
Yeah.
Okay. The purpose of telling you this is that if you're looking at getting into ownership, you may really want to choose the service that you want to join. And there's a plan around this. And I have a video of an episode that we recently did with the RCMP, and I'd like you guys to watch this video to provide more context. Matthew, take it away, buddy.
All right, let's play it.
The reason why you have, in my opinion, a massive advantage over every other service in Canada is that you could say, look, if I'm going to be making as a senior constable $115,000 a year, if I make that in Toronto, which I won't, Toronto's about $109,000, but they're going to be getting their increases as well. What kind of real estate can I buy in Toronto? Average home is about $2 million right now in Toronto. However, you go to a place like Manitoba, you might find a beautiful detached bungalow, 2,000 square feet for $200,000.
Oh my goodness. You know, I'm so happy we're kind of segueing into this conversation because honestly, for me as a recruiter, you know, you kind of find things that work and don't work.
Right.
And especially recruiting here in the GTA, what I found worked is talking about that. Like initially telling people like, hey, listen, you might have to move away, you might have to relocate. It was kind of like a drawback. People, they don't necessarily want to move away. They have their friends, they have their family, they have their connections. How I kind of got them to see it as an opportunity was exactly this point. Like, look, you can join this organization. You'll have an excellent pay, excellent, you know, pension, benefits, all of those things, which we can also discuss. But the flip side is you have access to live in some of the most affordable places in this country.
That's right.
To give you an idea, I was out in Manitoba. I didn't buy a home. I was renting. I was renting a home. It was a 3-bedroom house. You know, had a nice fenced-in yard, a garage, a basement. And had a deck, a fire pit. Overall, pretty decent place. Like it wasn't bad. I was paying $400 a month to rent.
Oh my gosh.
To rent this house.
Wow.
Right. And I know people here in the GTA. Kind of, you know, Southern Ontario-ish, even in some of the major cities across this country.
You might be able to rent a bathroom here for that, just a bathroom by
closet.
itself. Or a
I
closet.
would say, you know, a closet, right?
Yeah.
Like it's, and I tell people that I'm like, hey, listen, like, you know, like I know you might really not want to move away. It might not be the most exciting thing, but look at it as a stepping stone. And I honestly, it helped me fast track my life, right? Like when I went out to Manitoba, the work was great. Training was good. I got a lot of experience. I you know, investigated a lot of good files. But that's on the work side, right? And then we look at personal life. You know, my wife and I both graduated. We took OSAP. We paid off our debts. We traveled 3 times a year. You know, so we got to do a lot. Not only that, we had a financial goal. Like our goal wasn't like, okay, like let's stay in Manitoba for 5 years and then let's come back to Ontario or 6 years or 7 years. It was, our goal was, hey, once we can afford to buy a home, put a down payment on a house and, you know, kind of live in Ontario where we'd like to live comfortably.
Yes.
That's when we'll go back.
Right.
It took us 5.5 years. And
wow.
And not to say that other police forces in Ontario aren't good. They're amazing. They're fantastic, right?
Yes.
I was applying to OPP myself, right? So it's not, you know, it's okay. But I don't think I would have been able to achieve that specific goal if I stayed in the GTA, just because cost of living is high.
That's right.
You're paying, you want to rent a house instead of $400, you're looking at $3,000.
Right.
Everything for me, and I found it cheaper. Insurance was cheaper. Cell phones were cheaper.
Everything is cheap. Cost of living is cheaper.
Cost of living is just cheaper, right?
Yeah.
So the way that I explain it to the younger generation, if it's a viable option, I get it. Everyone's situation is different, but if you can, join the RCMP, go somewhere rural. The more rural you go, the more money you're gonna make, right?
Yes.
And just use that as a stepping stone. It's probably not gonna be, you know, a nice place where you have access to, you know, all the stuff you have here. You got to think of it like it's a stepping stone. Let me go here. Let me get my experience. Let me make my money, and then go where I would like to go and set myself up.
All right. First of all, thoughts, Matthew, on that?
That was incredible. And you know what? He speaks to a good point. Using the housing market as a tool to convince people to join the RCMP, I think that's a brilliant idea.
Yeah.
Because as we see in Ontario, the cost of living is getting higher, housing's getting higher. As you can see from the stress test, even as a police officer, a government worker, they still can't afford a good housing here.
No.
Unless they want a closet or a bathroom.
Yeah, no, 100%. So the key here, I want to take two takeaways here.
Yeah.
$110,000 a year is what we're using as the pay base.
Yeah.
So the question you got to ask yourself is if I'm going to be making that with Toronto, with Durham, with York, with Peel, with Halton, with the RCMP, with the OPP, with Vancouver, where can I go on this map in Canada so I can basically start off and get closer to home ownership? See, the problem, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to tell you guys this right now, is most people want short-term gain. That's what it comes down to. I don't want to go to Manitoba. But let me tell you how fast 5 years go by. They go by fast, maybe unless you're in jail. But if you're not in jail, 5 years goes by very, very fast. And the strategy is that if you want to get into ownership, again, you may say, look, I'm fine with renting. And look, you may be fine with renting. By the way, we could do another podcast on what it is to rent.
Yeah.
You're looking at about one bedroom, $3,000 in the downtown core.
Yeah.
Just to give you an idea for a 1-bedroom, 500 square foot condo.
It's not even talking about utilities.
Yeah,
as well.
we're not. So what I'm trying to say is that if you do want to rent, go for sure. But part of what we want to do as well when we elevate the mindset is elevate your decision making so you can also be rewarded financially. Because look, at the end of the day, you don't want to work to survive. Okay, and the thing that we wanted to kind of highlight here is, again, you don't have to be a police officer, but we wanted to use that salary so you guys can make that decision of where you'd want to work. So if you are thinking of applying to a certain service, look at this map. Look at the stress test calculator and map it out. Is this something that you want to do? I can tell you this right now, that a lot of services have had their people leave and transfer to other services just because of this thing alone. And for myself, I'm nonpartisan. I support all services. But at the same time, you got to look after the best interest of yourself as well. Mm-hmm. Now, there is another way, by the way, that you could still work for a service of your choice and still own a home. And it's something that many, many, many people do. It's something that when you hear of it, it would probably turn you off of this. But it's you and a couple of your friends, or you and maybe some other families, 2 or 3 other families, 4 families. I've heard as high as like 5, 6 families. You're talking about maybe 20 people. Mm-hmm. You all buy a home together. You all basically all get in together. You all put in a down payment together, $50,000, $100,000 each. And you all live together for 4 to 5 years. Mm-hmm. In that time, you're building equity. You're paying off the mortgage. Then you sell that bad boy. And when you sell it now, you take that equity out and then you can buy a home because you have a larger deposit now or a larger down payment. It's also good for people that want to accumulate and build a deposit, right? By doing that through real estate. Again, the sacrifice is you got to move in with people that you may not want to move into. Yep. If you like to use that bathroom, walk around in your underwear and do all that kind of stuff, you may not be able to do that. However, the long-term gain here is that you're going to be putting some money into equity and getting that edge, okay? There's another guy that does podcasts here as well about the financial gain. Maybe we can even send his links as well, because these are the kind of things that I feel that it's important for you to know. So again, you got this information today. We will have all the links. The purpose of today is make that decision. Don't just, once you've decided you want to be a police officer, whether you were born with that intuition to be a protector or now you've developed that, your second question is to map your life out as, what do I want to do for financial stability? Where do I want to live? And then make your decision based on that. We're more than happy to hear you in the comment section. We can answer any questions, but we're going to provide all the links. Ladies and gentlemen, have a great day. Matthew, any closing words?
No, I think this is really informative. I think a lot of people consider this housing situation as they hear about it, but they don't learn about it. And I think this is very informative. These links are very powerful tools. And like we said, we'll put it in the description. And hopefully you guys can be able to plan your life and hopefully get a house.
Okay, amazing, everyone. Have a fantastic day and keep searching. Thank you for joining me in today's podcast. This podcast was created for protectors in the fields of law enforcement, executive protection, security, and anyone looking to level up their mindset. If you are learning from this podcast and you're enjoying it, please subscribe to our YouTube channel at the Sentinel Mindset. That's a zero-cost way to support us. In addition, please subscribe to the podcast both on Spotify and Apple. And on both Spotify and Apple, you can leave us up to a 5-star review. If you have questions for me or comments about the podcast or guests you would like me to consider on the Sentinel Mindset, please post all comments on YouTube. I do read all the comments. Please also check out our sponsors, thearenatoronto.com. The Arena was created to help all those in the fields of law enforcement, security, and all that achieve their fitness goals. I want to thank our producer, Matthew Doyle, and creative support, Jaslene Singh, who help me with this podcast every week. We value your feedback and are here to support you. Tune into the Sentinel Mindset every week, where we look in the mirror to make real changes and explore what it takes to achieve greatness in your craft.
This podcast is brought to you by Executive Protection Lifestyle Canada. Make sure to drop by next week and don't forget to subscribe.